Hello and welcome back. My name is Matthew Quilliam and today we're looking at how to memorise playing songs on your ukulele. Now, I teach hundreds of students throughout the year, both privately and at ukulele festivals. I get speaking to loads and loads of people, and one of the main things people tell me that they wish they could do is not necessarily mastering that B flat chord, although I do have a video up here all about that in case you want to watch it. It's not necessarily learning any fancy strumming patterns, it's just basically learning how to memorise songs. And I don't blame them, because that's a really important skill that can make or break a performance. Being able to look up and away from the sheet music down there can make all the difference to a performance. Instead of having your eyes glued on a page, you can be looking up and engaging and interacting with your audience and actually singing and playing to them rather than to the music stand. Now, the first time, maybe even the second and the third time you try these things, you may find it takes a bit of time to learn the song, but the more you do this, in other words, the more you practice memorising songs, the better and quicker you will be at doing this. So stick with this method and hopefully within a few weeks or months you'll have some songs stored up there that you can just whip out anytime someone says, "Play me a song." Now today we're going to be learning the song I Want to Break Free by Queen. Now I can't play the song in this video for copyright reasons, but I'm sure it's a song that most of us know anyway, and of course if you don't know it then you will after this. I find that this is a great song to use as a vehicle for learning to memorise songs because it fits neatly into my 3-step process, and I'm going to outline the 3 steps for you right now. The first step is to have a look and see if you can work out the narrative of a song. This doesn't necessarily mean a story with a cause and effect narrative, but just some sort of through line that helps the song progress. Most songs will be structured in a sort of chronological order, or at the very least, their verses will be set so that one follows on after the other, even if there isn't necessarily any characters or story or plot going through the song. That said, this song does have a kind of narrative theme that goes through it, which we're going to explore right now. This song is broken down into several parts. We've got 2 verses, a chorus and a verse. We've also got a solo in there and an intro and an outro. So there's lots to remember. So how do we go about doing that? As you can see from the lyrics on the screen, these are the first words that the singer sings, Freddie Mercury of course, and we can see that we've got this general theme of wanting to break free. Sounds obvious, right? But there are some things that we still don't know from the context of these lyrics. We don't know why they want to break free, we don't actually know what their situation is that they want to break free from, and we don't necessarily know what they want to break free to. This information is left to verse 2, where we can see the reasoning for this feeling that the song is about. We see that the character has fallen in love. Now, of course, this is a very strong sort of feeling and a very good reason why somebody might want to break free. And we've now got a little bit more context. Maybe the person is in an unhealthy relationship, or maybe they're just sick of the day-to-day, lonely sort of norm kind of thing. We don't need to know an exact plot line and know every single thing about the character, of course, but this simple motivation of wanting to break free because of love helps us put together a clear order between the verses. We want to break free. Why? Because of this reason. Now we have the chorus. Now the chorus comes after the 2 verses, and if you can remember that fact, just that simple little fact, then you're halfway there already. Now the chorus does change things up a bit, and we're going to dive a little bit more into the chorus in the next step of this process. But just bear in mind for now that we have 2 verses and then the chorus. This 3rd verse is the final piece of the puzzle. We now learn that this love may be unrequited, or at the very least unattainable at this present moment. We've got in the first verse a desire to break free, verse 2 is the why, and now we've got the why not. Why aren't they breaking free? Why can't they get out? Or why haven't they done it already? And so we've got this kind of cause and effect going on through the verses. And if you can remember that structure, even without learning any of the specific lyrics yet, then, like I said about the chorus, you're already halfway there. You've got that structure in your head. So you've learnt the split stroke, the triplet and the fan. What next?
This is George's Genius, over 2 hours of content split across 40 lessons in 7 modules.
We'll be zooming in on lots of different Formby songs and breaking each one down to discover how we can bring them all to life. You'll learn advanced techniques such as the shake, the rake, halftime, changing up the basic split stroke pattern and even adding melodies to your chords. Then finally, preparing ourselves for a live performance with a backing track or live band. So head over to my website or click the link in the description to sign up right now, where you'll find it's turning out nice again sooner than you think.
Step 2 is to then look for any landmarks within the song, and more specifically the chord progression, that helps us remember the order of that narrative. So this is where we're going to need our ukulele. We're going to dive now into the actual chords of the song and help put everything together first of all. We've got the structure of the song, but now let's see if we can put any relation between the lyrics and the chords. Whether they know it or not, songwriters will often include parts of the actual music that somewhat reflect the themes of the lyrics that they're singing about. And if you can identify these, then that's another step closer to remembering what the lyrics are and how they relate to which chords you're playing. Not every chord will of course have been specifically chosen with this in mind, but I found a few examples that we can look at in this song that may help us remember how to match the lyrics and the chords. If you want to play my version of this song, then you can download a PDF to that in the description. So the first chord is an F chord, and we stay on this chord for a really long time. I want to break free, just whizzing through it. I want to break free from your life, I'm so satisfied I don't need you. It's not until need you where the chord changes. Now I like to think that these chord changes are a deliberate way of reflecting the monotonous situation that the character finds themselves in. What do I mean by this? Well, we've got this F chord kind of drumming along, la 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 F chord, nothing's changing, things are staying the same. If the situation was more dramatic and hectic, we might find ourselves playing chords all over the fretboard, but they're not. Things are still and unchanging and quite sort of boring really for the character, and this is reflected with this same old F that keeps going and going. This is called a static chord. The chord stays where it is for ages, and more interestingly than that, when the chord actually does change, it changes on the I don't need you. I don't need you. Now, this is quite a significant lyric, which has been highlighted by a break from the monotony. This B-flat chord is a really strong way of suggesting a little rebellion towards this monotony, and that's what the lyrics suggest as well. I don't need you, trying to break free from that B-flat chord. However, the next chord that we hear is that F again, want to break free. So we've seen a bit of rebellion, but actually they're not quite there, not quite able to break free just yet, and we find ourselves back in that monotony. The second verse begins with a no chord, a little break in the strumming. I've fallen in love, and that helps us highlight that lyric. I've fallen in love, like we said earlier, that's the motivation behind the whole song, and so all the chords stop, so you just hear those words, I've fallen in love, and then the music comes back in again. A great way to highlight a really important part of the themes of this song. Now the chorus is where the chords get really interesting. So far we're still in the key of F, but this time we feature a C chord and a B flat chord. Now the chords F, C and B flat are all quite pleasant. They all go together really nicely. You can create all sorts of songs using those chords in any order. They're quite safe chords. But the second half of the chorus gets a little bit more adventurous. When we get the lyrics, I have to be sure when I walk out that door. So thematically the lyrics are really strong, motivated, I'm going to break free from here now. It's really ramping up, and we've got some slightly new chords. We've got a D minor, which does go quite well with F, but then we get a G chord. Now in the key of F, the G chord features an erroneous note. Now this G chord is a little bit of an outsider to the key of F. Yes, in some songs F and G go well really together, but in this context we've already heard a B flat, which features the note B flat quite heavily. So when we play a G chord, which has that B note in it, we've got a bit of a conflict between the B and the B flat, which makes this G chord really surprising and uplifting. Have to be sure when I walk out that door. It really grabs our attention and it heightens the drama of the song. You could say therefore that we've reached what's called a harmonic climax. This is where, like I said, we've reached an elevation of the drama. And now we're going to see this climax settle down again to a new status quo. Because we get these chords, B flat, C, and then our ears kind of want to expect an F chord again. That pleasantly sounding progression. But what do we get instead? B flat, C, D minor. B flat, C, D minor, over and over again, over the lyrics, oh how I want to break free. This is another concept called the deceptive cadence, and it is quite an old concept and it's got a really cool name, I think. We're expecting to hear C, F, which is quite a pleasant, jolly, happy kind of sound, but that's what we're expecting. But we hear a D minor, which is the sad cousin of an F. It deceives our expectations, and instead of hearing that satisfying chord progression, I want to break free. If we heard that F, we'd think, oh, they've broken free. But no, to break free. That deceptive D minor chord sneaks in there and brings us back down to earth. We're still trapped. And we've seen now in this chorus how we've looked at these chords and actually seen the deliberate choices that reflect the themes of the lyrics and how that might help us to remember the songs a bit better. If we can memorise either the lyrics or the chords, just memorising one of them, that will help influence the other, because we've seen how actually they're kind of intertwined with each other. And one more thing I'll just point out is the outro of the song. This kind of has a fading out, oh I want to break free again. This kind of round and round loop fades out into obscurity. There's no resolution. We don't get a final happy resolved sound. It just fades out like a daydream disappearing and coming back down to reality. Over the same old chords round and round again. This loop, this day-to-day monotony is reflected in this outro. So there we are. I've thrown a lot of concepts at you, but hopefully you've started to see how the chords and lyrics relate to each other and how you can spot patterns in one that is reflected in the other. And the way we use this to memorise songs is again thinking about that narrative. We're thinking about the cause and the effect, the why and the why nots and all that sort of stuff that we spoke about in the first step, and we're using landmarks within the song, within the music, to help us think more deeply about the structure of the song. These are things that I like to do that help me remember little clues that the song gives me to think what's coming next. Maybe you've memorised the first verse and maybe even the second verse, but you think, oh, what's that chorus? What's going on? Well, I now know the story of the chorus, both lyrically and chordally, if that's even a word. That will maybe give me a clue to help me remember. Now, it's important to say that just doing this sort of analysis won't instantly help you remember chord progressions, but it is a step closer, and we're going to look at the last step right now. Step 3. Now you've worked out the order of the song and done a few things to help you remember which verses come after which. Then it's time to try and actually put this all together into a performance. Now this is actually where we put this into practice. So far we've looked at the story of the song, we've looked at clues that the song gives us to help us remember, but now we've actually got to put it into practice. You might be expecting me to say something like, just keep doing the song round and round. But while that is a technique, that's not the only one out there, and it's not necessarily the best one for everyone. So let's explore some others. I would personally start with just learning the intro and the verse, testing myself, can I do it with my eyes shut? If not, keep going. Just that verse, that little chunk of a song. And once I feel confident on that, I then look at the second verse and I focus all my attention on that. It's only after I've learnt both chunks individually do I put them together, and I try and treat those two halves as one whole. And once I've learned that, maybe that's all you've got time for that day. You've learnt half a song, fantastic. And analysing those clues earlier will have helped us do that more quickly. Then the next day I might try and learn the chorus and the third verse, again separately, putting them together, and then maybe even on day 3 or 4 do I try and put the whole song together. And it's only at that point I would start looping it round and round. I may find that actually, because it's been a few days now, my memory of verse 1 and 2 is a little bit ropey, so if I'm finding myself repeatedly tripping up over that part of the song, that's the part I will focus on. Again, I will ignore the rest of the song and zoom in on that weak area and just have a go at that bit till it's at the standard of the rest of it, then putting it back together. Ways to help you remember words and chords is you can use a second piece of paper on top of the piece of paper you've already got the words and lyrics written on. If I've got my sheet of paper here, maybe I'll use another one and sort of slowly bring it down, learning one line at a time. Learning that one line, then I'll bring it down to reveal the next one, and so on and so forth. Then maybe I'll try and challenge myself. If I've got 2 lines revealed, can I remember the third and fourth? If not, have a quick sneak peek, then cover it up again, and keep doing that until you can do it. Or another way of doing the same thing, but in a slightly different way, is to actually do the pieces of paper side by side and have one cover the other. So you could cover either the first half or the second half of the sentences. And these act as prompts. I've fallen, cover up in love, fallen in love. That's quite a common phrase. That's easy to remember. Some of these other lyrics, fallen in love for the first time, cover up for the first time. I've fallen in love for the first time. Keep doing those little things, covering up, seeing if you can remember, if not, having a sneak peek, and eventually try and get it to the point where you've basically covered up the sheet of paper entirely, or of course not just looking at it, and you can do it either with your eyes closed or just singing up and out. So there we are. That's a lot thrown at you in just a short video, so don't be afraid to watch this video again and maybe even make some notes. Of course, you've got the PDF download as well in the description. So hopefully I've given you enough to help you get started on your journey to memorising songs. Like I said, this won't all happen overnight. There's no real method that's sort of overnight, just like that will just suddenly make your brain able to absorb all the songs in the world. This does take time and practice. Getting into a routine, a method, is really important. And hopefully these 3 steps will give you the secret to unlocking that ability. If you like this video, then I do have plenty more on the channel. I've got one right here all about that pesky B flat chord, which has come up a lot in this video. So if you want to check that out, then I'll see you over there now.